good morning. Welcome to today's session. You've made it to the last day of MIX. My name's Todd, and this is my colleague John. I'm the business guy, and I don't have a shirt with buttons or a collar, and the technical guru is the one with the collar and the buttons. So we're going to be talking about Windows Phone Marketplace today, and we have a lot of content to cover. So I'd like to ask you to hold your questions. We're going to save time at the end to address those questions. All right. So before we start, I'd like to back up and talk about an experience that we all share, and that's the retail experience. So as I was working on this talk, I thought about an experience I had a couple weeks ago that I think highlights some of the key challenges that mobile application developers face, and it's a lot of feedback that I've heard from conversations with people like you. So I was on vacation with my family. We traveled, we stayed at a cabin. We were supposed to have breakfast. We got up, everybody was a little cranky, and there was no cereal. And my daughter, she's very particular about her cereal. She's 5 years old. So being dad, I quickly ended up someplace like this. I go into the store. I find the right aisle for the content type I'm looking for, that being cereal. Go up and down the aisle. I can't find the right brand. But I do find 15 other things that sort of have the right attributes. They're sweet. They taste like chocolate. They change the color of milk when you pour the milk over it in the cereal bowl. So as a consumer, I have to stop and make an informed purchase decision. I'm reading boxes. I'm looking at the crazy logos. I'm looking at the quality of the boxes. Being a retail situation, they make it very easy for me to part with my money on the way out. So I pay, I get back to the cabin, and breakfast is saved. So what are the key challenges that mobile application developers face? Well, this is what we've heard from you. First, how do you go about establishing a relationship with a store? A store it's a worldwide store. Next, how do you distribute your product to the store? Do you have to manage multiple distribution channels, or is there a single distribution channel you get to take advantage of? Once you put your product into the distribution channel, how long is it before it's on one of those shelves and customers are looking at it and able to purchase it? Once it's on the shelf, how is it performing? Have you priced it too high? Have you priced it too low? How much information are you getting about your product and the sales of it? And then finally, you think you have the very best product, an amazing product. Is there anything special the store does to showcase your product to new consumers that weren't aware of it? So with that, I'd like to talk about Windows Phone Marketplace and how we help you solve some of those key challenges. I'm going to start off with a short video. Now, some of you may have seen this in Scott Guthrie's keynote. For those of you that weren't able to attend, and even for those of you that were, I think it's a great way to frame our conversation today. So with that, I'd like you to meet Windows Phone Marketplace.
Finding and downloading apps is a snap with Windows Phone 7 series. The Marketplace Hub provides a smarter way to find all the apps, games, and music to personalize your Windows Phone. The application panoramic view showcases featured apps, games, or you can browse to the content of your choice. Select the featured item of the day, which provides the panorama background for the experience. The application's detail page provides access to ratings, reviews, screenshots, related apps, and optional game content ratings, helping you make an informed decision. Make your purchase in just 2 taps. You can pin your favorite apps to the Start Quick Launch, allowing 1-tap access.
All right. I love that video because it's about 2 great things. First, it's about getting your great applications and games into the hands of people with Windows phones. And second, it's all about helping you make money with your great products and services. So let's talk about the Marketplace Hub. You've been in a lot of sessions this week, the keynotes. You probably realized that The Windows Phone 7 series, it's a different type of phone. It's for people with busy lives, consumers, business people. And the marketplace is where they go to acquire all the content to personalize their phone. If I scroll back to the middle here, this is the list of the type of content that I can select from to personalize my phone. Applications, games, premium Xbox Live games, music, and special applications for my mobile operator or for the OEM that manufactured my Windows Phone device. Now, once you've acquired the content, we do something different. The content's smart. It organizes itself for you. So we've talked about the different hubs. There's the Office Hub for people that work in the enterprise. There's the Games Hub. That's the collection of games that you've acquired. And that's where you go when you want to get your game on and interact with that content. The People Hub. So the applications, depending on what it was, what type of application it is, will organize itself into one of those hubs or appear on the applications list. So back to the earlier challenges that I spoke about, Marketplace provides a single software distribution service for getting your software to the phone. And there's a spectrum of approaches that we're taking. So we've talked about Marketplace as the single distribution service for getting your consumer applications and games to the phone. And clearly it does that, and it helps solve a challenge. You don't have to manage multiple distribution networks. You have an easy way to get updates to the phone. And consumers have an easy way to receive those updates and take action on them. And we realize there's a spectrum of customers out there and some important scenarios. So there's the enterprise. The enterprise is incredibly important to Microsoft. So we realize that we need a solution for enterprises to get applications on the phones for their employees. Similarly, a lot of you probably need the ability to distribute applications in advance to a group of people to do beta testing. You don't want to just put it into the catalog. Or you want to do a soft launch of your product and get a copy of the application to analysts or influentials so they can write up and you get good press when you launch your product. So, this spring we're going to be coming back with information on how we're going to enable those scenarios. Let's talk a little bit more about the hub. So, I don't know what caught your attention most when you look at the Marketplace hub. I think one of the most striking things is the panoramic background image. So this image is associated with the featured item. In this case, it's Shazam. And it covers the whole canvas of the panoramic background. If I sweep over to the right, there's additional featured items. Oops. There's seven featured items on this page. There's a combination of apps, a combination of games, and music. That enhances discoverability of your products and services and encourages consumers to browse and explore the catalog. I'm going to click on Applications and go deep there. And again, I'm taken to another page with a broad panoramic background. In this case, the Associated Press is the featured application of the day, and it controls the background image. In the middle, we see some smart filters or algorithmic views of what's going on in the marketplace. One of them is what's popular. So it's smart because we use multiple variables. It's not just what's free and most downloaded. It's a combination of factors for the best products in the marketplace. Again, new, multiple variables. It's largely based on time. Like my retail analogy, if you know where you want to go, which aisle, we have categories. You can quickly go there, and if you wanted to go down the games aisle or you wanted to go check out utilities, we make it very easy for you to do that. I'm going to jump over here to the additional featured items on the applications marketplace. And I'm going to click on All Featured. This is going to take me to a list. Here I see all the featured items. You'll notice we display a lot of the information you'd expect, the icons, the name of the applications, the ratings. Along the top, we provide a series of pivots that allow consumers to quickly filter what they're seeing to help them find the right thing. I'm going to click on top. Suddenly, I'm seeing a different view, but it's a view of all the featured things. It's just the most popular of the featured things. Now, if you can't find what you're looking for this way, or you just want to jump right to what you're looking for, search is always available. Just hit the search button, type in what you want. In this case, I type in arcade, and 3 results come back. Let's say I'm interested in one particular application, so I click on Gooseblatt. Now, back to my retail story. It's all about making an informed purchase decision. So this is where we present consumers or people with Windows phones all the information required to help them make a good purchase decision. The name of the ISV, a big fancy icon, the price, the ratings from people that have acquired that application or game, a short description. You can click on more to read a longer description, screenshots, and then at the bottom you see try and buy. We'll talk about try a little bit later. I can scroll down. I can see more reviews and ratings. I could click on more and see even more if I wanted to. I could scroll down further. There's something interesting, related. So with related, we show you 4 additional items from the same category. These are the most popular other items in the same category as the application or game that I'm viewing. The goal is to increase discoverability for all applications across the marketplace. Below that, there's an optional game content rating indicator. We provide some information about when the application was initially published, the size, and what the options are for downloading that application or game. Can I download it over the air? Do I have to use Wi-Fi? Or do I use the PC client and a tethered connection to load it? An interesting thing we do right at the bottom is more. Say I really like what this developer has done. I want to see what else they've done. We make it really simple. I just click on more, and I see a list of more applications or games from that developer, everything that they've created. Again, with the pivots, I'm able to quickly filter and see, what I'm looking for, what's top, what's new. That's how we help consumers make informed decisions. Now, we touched on updates earlier. We make it really easy for consumers and people with Windows phones to find updates for the applications and games that they've acquired. So down at the bottom of content that's available to me, I see a visual indication that I have 2 updates available. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm taken to a screen that shows me the 2 applications. In this case, it's 2 games that I've purchased. We make it really easy. I can click Update All, and then I can go about my business on the phone while the applications are updated. Or I can click on an individual application and see the details about that update. In this case, I see they've added additional levels to this game, they've made it faster, and they've added some new functionality. Again, making very quick and easy for people to update applications through Marketplace. Now, we should talk about something that's new and something that's unique on Windows Phone. And this is an ability for you to drive a deeper connection with your customer. So in my retail analogy, when I walk out the door with the product, I don't have a connection with the company that made that product any longer. We're doing some unique things that allow you to build a stronger connection with the customers that acquire your games and applications. So all applications appear in the apps list. And the apps list, it's to the right of the start screen, so it's always available. That's where I can go in and I can take my favorite applications, in this case the Associated Press application, and I can pin it to the start screen. It'd be appended at the bottom, and then depending on how important that application was to me, I can move that application up. Now, you can do some very interesting things with live tiles. That live tile can show me dynamic information about that application, the services it's connected to, about the company that produced it. All of that adds value to me as a consumer that's purchased or acquired that game or application. All right. I'd like to talk about 3 things that we've heard from you that are very important. So first, rapid and reliable. And my colleague John is going to talk about that. That's all about streamlining processes and making things efficient and easy. I'm going to talk about transparency and predictability. So in lots of conversations, we hear that people want a system, a marketplace, that's more transparent and more predictable. Transparency is really important. When you look at economies around the world, you see economies that have too much red tape, things take a long time. Innovation suffers in those markets. You see other economies or markets where there's not much transparency. People don't understand how things work. Again, innovation suffers. So we're trying to strike the right balance. There's countries around the world where innovation, business innovation, prospers. They share 2 attributes, transparency and predictability. So we publish everything about how the marketplace works. So when you hear us talk about publishing our application test guidelines or our content policies, not requiring an NDA to see our application provider agreement, application guidelines, it's all so you understand how the marketplace works so you can manage your businesses efficiently in the marketplace. So for those of you that are familiar with our current marketplace for Windows Phone 6.5, all this documentation's out online. We're going to update this documentation in May for the Windows Phone marketplace. So look for that. Don't expect any significant changes. Now, predictability. Again, this is really important. We've heard a lot of feedback that you want more predictability. You want to understand when you put your product into the software distribution channel, how long does it take to make it to the shelf? So I can tell you today, on average, well, for 98% of the applications that are submitted through the marketplace that exists today, it takes 5 days for them to go through the process and essentially be on the shelf. That's good. We're going to work on better. We're going to clearly communicate a bunch of other timelines. How long does it take for an ISV, once they register, to be able to submit applications? What's the payout threshold? How much do you have to earn before you get paid? When in the month do we kick off our payout run and send you money? So we're going to publish that all online so you understand everything about how the marketplace works. Okay, how you profit. I guess this is important since this session's about how you make money with Windows Phone Marketplace. I think we've already talked about a lot of things that help you profit from Windows Phone Marketplace. Worldwide access. John's going to talk about that. Ease of discovery for your content. One thing you should have noticed about the user experience is that it's all about your content. Your content is the star. You've probably heard it in a lot of other sessions. It's all about the content, not the Chrome. We take that very seriously. And as you see, your content is the star in the experience. And then convenient updates and distribution. Now, in my retail analogy, I talked about taking the very best applications or games and making them highly discoverable for people. So we do that through active merchandising. We have a team that looks for the very, very best applications and games, the things that you create. And we find interesting ways to showcase those to people that weren't aware of them. That's good for you because it drives additional sales. It's great for consumers with Windows phones because they find interesting new applications to personalize their devices. Revenue share, 70%. Everybody always asks me this question, so I put it at the top of the list. I actually think the second bullet is the most important bullet. Trial. We're going to provide you a trial API. You get to control the length or type of the trial. Is it time-based? Is it level-based? Is it based on something else? With this, you get to put one application into the marketplace. Some people are going to find it and they're going to buy it straight away. Other people, they're going to try it. If they try it, some of those are going to convert. You're going to get more money by enabling trial. Commerce. We support credit cards. We make it easy for a person to associate a credit card with their Windows Live ID so that they can easily purchase an item and subsequent items. We also support carrier billing or mobile operator billing. Why? We think that's a great user experience. A person with a Windows phone just hits buy, they hit confirm, the charge shows up on their bill. That's a great user experience, and it's great for you because we know that where we do that, we see over a 300% increase in transactions. It's more money for you. Now, there were a lot of questions at the Monday Ask the Expert panel about business models. So I'm going to talk about 4. So clearly, we support paid transactions. We also support freemium, so the concept of people trying something and then being upsold to the full product. We support ad-funded business models, and of course, free applications. With Marketplace, you get to set the pricing, you control when your application is published, you control which countries it's published into, and how it's priced. There's additional business models, and we're going to come back and provide information on that in May. So I love this slide. This is a slide about where we can pay you money for the applications and games that you've created. So there's 30 countries in green on this map, and we're always working on adding more green to the map. Green means it's a country where you can register as a developer, and we can pay you based on the sales of your applications and games. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to John.
Thanks a lot, Todd. Morning, everybody. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this slide. You've probably seen it a number of times over the last couple of days. You've probably seen Charlie Kindle talk about the various platform components, the cloud services, the portal services. You've probably seen Mike Harsh talk about Silverlight. Following us, Michael Klucher is going to be up here talking about XNA games and how you build interesting games with the XNA Game Studio. If you've attended any of the Windows Azure talks, I'm sure you've heard about a lot of the APIs and services we're making available for you guys to include in your applications. But I'm going to really talk about the portal services that we have available to help you publish your apps. So, in keeping with Todd's retail analogy, if the store is where you sell your apps, we're the guys that help you with the logistics of actually getting your apps in the store. That includes all the things like we mentioned up here: registration, validation, the business intelligence, the submission process, etc. So that's what we're going to cover over the next couple of slides. So, show of hands. How many people have gone to developer.windowsphone.com and got the tools? Awesome. We love the tools. Are the tools rocking or what? All right. So the dev portal is going to be your home away from home. When you're building applications, when you're sitting there late at night and you're like, you've crafted the greatest idea ever and you're ready to sit down and start cranking. Dev portal is where you go to actually learn and build and get all the tools you need to start building your applications. Additionally, once you're ready to publish that app, you can actually go back to the dev portal, get registered, submit your applications, and start earning money. So we kind of talked a little bit about the getting started experience, but really, again, the number one thing we're going to highlight here is getting the tools first, either choosing Silverlight or XNA to build your applications, register to publish, and then moving on to distribution. So what about registration? A lot of folks ask us, what's the registration all about? So really it's about creating an account and establishing yourself as publishers. Publishers are, what you've seen in the marketplace application is that the person who's actually saying, I'm the one selling this application. So you show up to the portal. We have a registration process that's fairly easy. You step through a couple of steps. You give us a little bit of information about yourself, and we do what we call vetting. We get you validated as a publisher. We get a lot of questions about what is vetting. What are you guys doing there? What's the value add? Well, there's really a couple things going on. So we've talked a lot about how end user is king. We want to have really great experiences for the consumers of your applications. And to the extent we have great experiences for those consumers, they're going to buy more applications. But that means we really want to make sure that you guys have a great reputation as developers. We know everybody in this room are great developers. They have the best intentions, but not everyone has the best intentions. So we want to make sure that through a validation process that we clearly establish your identity, and we're going to issue you an Authenticode certificate so we can actually sign applications on your behalf. And that actually accommodates two real goals. The first is, again, we bind your identity to the application, and the second is that we're allowed to sign code on your behalf so the application can actually run on the device. And then finally, once validation is complete, you just start submitting applications. For folks in the room who are actually already building on 6, your existing accounts are just going to work. You don't have to do anything to get started with 7 applications. And one of the things we've announced this week is that we've opened the doors to students in the DreamSpark program to also get registered and start submitting applications. And that's going to open a really large ecosystem of people who are going to be publishing for Windows Phone 7. So one of the things we're going to discuss is the publishing principles. You're going to see a lot of these same themes throughout the conversation. Predictable experience, the transparency and predictability of our publishing process, and the great tools and support we have available for you guys to actually get going on our platform. So this is the publishing process. It's kind of a few simple steps, but I want to take you through what we're doing there from the perspective of from the Visual Studio experience straight out to the marketplace. So you've already seen how easy it is to get those tools and start building the applications. We want that submission process to be as easy, if not easier, for you guys to get those apps in the marketplace. So it really starts with you showing up to the portal, you compile your app, you test it, it looks great, you're super excited about getting it into the marketplace. You show up, you want to create a submission for the application, you give us the Zap package. From there we move on to what we call the app packaging and validation step. Now this is where we actually prep your app for the marketplace. A couple of things are going on here. We're going to double check the application to understand what the capabilities are. We want to know exactly what the app needs. Does it need push notification services? Does it need to access location? Does it use things like, I'm at a loss for other capabilities at the moment, but you get what I'm saying. So we detect those capabilities, and that allows us to actually build the manifest for the application that then tells the device how to provision the least privileged chamber. Additionally, along the way, we're packing in all of the licensing information that you guys need so you can support trials, and we can actually do the licensing for the end user. And then finally, we're going to pack it all up and compress it down so it's as small as we can possibly get it for best experience with delivery. From there, you're going to add metadata to the portal. That's going to tell the end user exactly what they can expect from your application, descriptions, all the iconography, screenshots, anything you want to do to actually showcase your app. We also recommend provide us a really nice background image in the panoramic format that you've seen before, so that as our folks are looking for great applications to showcase, your apps are just going to pop with that really, really awesome background. From there, we're going to move into applying the test criteria. So you click the button, you say, I'm ready, submit my application. We're going to move on and do what we call the technical certification process. And that's where we're going to evaluate your app for a couple of the different technical certification requirements that we have. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. And assuming you guys are going to pass that certification criteria, because you're already going to know what it is, you're going to build your apps with that in mind. Everyone's going to pass first time around. We're going to put that Authenticode certificate on, or signature rather, on top of the application that we talked about earlier. So from registration out to submission, we tie it all together right here with the signing. And then from there, you have some options. You can auto-publish to Marketplace, or you can choose to control your publish date so that if you want to promote your app, you have some PR buzz that's going to drop on a particular day, you have that control through our publishing process. So a couple considerations that I want to make a point to mention here as you're building your applications. First one is applying the best practices for packaging applications. I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means in a minute. We talked about trial licenses. This is like one of the things we want to hit on the most. Use those trial licenses for better sell-through. So how do trials work? It's really quite easy, and I'm going to mention that in a minute as we go through the slides. And consider the test criteria. Again, back to the whole conversation about transparency and predictability. We want to publish those criteria to you guys so you know exactly what to expect when the app is coming through the process. So what do I mean by packaging best practices? So show of hands, how many folks actually think about building applications with multiple language support? And so when you know what I mean when I say use .NET localization best practices, use the resource-based localization. The reason this is important is this allows us, during that packaging step that I mentioned, to discover the application languages that you support. And that informs our submission process of what kinds of metadata we should collect from you. So to the extent you want to support multiple languages like English and, say, French, we're going to ask you for things like French metadata to support the catalog. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to actually distribute your application beyond English-speaking and French-speaking countries, because you can. But it actually just helps us have a better experience for you guys as you're submitting the app, as well as a better experience for end users by asking for that multilingual support in the catalog. Second thing is package multiple applications within the same ZAP. So this is actually a really good optimization in the submission flow. To the extent you've done this, you'll only have to submit one ZAP for multiple countries. Again, you don't have to distribute your English and French-speaking application to only in English and French-speaking markets. Through our pricing features, you'll actually be able to submit those applications into any country that we support. And thirdly, leverage that trial API. It's super simple. You're going to be amazed at how easy it is to actually put trial support in your applications. And through simply checking a box in the submission flow that says you want to use trial, we'll pack the appropriate licensing in, and your application will support trials right out of the gate. So I mentioned, how super simple is it? It's really just about using that isTrial API. We can't really say more that trials are really important to end users, and that's really going to help your sell-through. So it's really just about, if you want to take the Goosesplat application and allow somebody to, say, get 3 levels for free, and then at level 4 upsell to a purchase experience, you can control that quite easily. You can control based on time, you can control based on functionality, or some other variable that you may be more applicable to your scenario. So test criteria principles. I mentioned those technical certification requirements. The principles we have that help us think about what we want to accomplish from a certification perspective are these 3. And really, I can't emphasize the point more that the reason we want to make sure that the applications are well behaving and great is because we want the end user to have a really great experience. And to the extent they have that great experience, you're going to sell more applications. I can't make that point, stress that point enough. So these are the sort of our guiding principles of how we think about the certification criteria. Firstly, phone functionality is protected. We want to make sure that the device is a phone. We don't want phone functionality to be interfered with by the application. Second, apps are well behaved. Well-behaving apps are going to be apps that get great ratings, are going to be apps that sell a lot more copies. And thirdly, that certification process for you guys is super predictable and timely. And I know you're asking yourself the question, how long is timely? Well, we've been doing this for a little bit on 6, and we've got some pretty good metrics for how timely we're able to be. Roughly speaking, we are, pushing, roughly 98% of content through the pipeline in 5 business days or less at the moment, which is a fairly timely and predictable experience. So the test criteria pillars, these are the things that define the criteria. Starting with technical validation. Technical validation, we have a couple of things we're looking for here. One, that applications are reliable, as I mentioned. They're not crashing the device. That they're using resources efficiently. They're not consuming battery life like mad or doing things that might cause a bad end user experience. Not that anyone in this room would do this, but that they're free of malicious software. And they're not doing things like stealing your bank account information and sending it over to interesting people on the internet. And that they, again, don't interfere with the phone functionality. After technical validation, we have what's called policy validation. And we have this statement up here that says it meets Microsoft standards for global content policies. But at the end of the day, what that really means is we want the end user marketplace to have a really good breadth of content that's acceptable to the widest range of audiences. So this is really just about having a good standard for great applications. And meeting the application type guidelines goes kind of part and parcel with those standards. So then we do what we call market validation. Market validation is really quite simple. If you say that my app is localized in German, we're just going to make sure it is. And secondarily, we're going to make sure that we're evaluating that application against regional policies. Make sure that we're complying with local laws and things of that nature, so that if there's a particular law in another country, we're not pushing content into that country where we shouldn't. So I've talked a little bit about the policies and the processes for getting the apps in the catalog. Todd has mentioned that we want to have a really great end-to-end experience for end users and for you guys, so you know how well your apps are doing once they're in the store. So we're going to offer through the dev portal, again, a lot of tools and resources to help you guys get started. Geographical sales and reporting. Your apps are published. You want to see how they're doing. We want to give you the maximum level of detail we can, so you know where you're doing well, where you're not doing so well. So maybe you find out that a lot of users in France actually like your application, but it's not localized in French. So maybe you want to actually, spend a little money to localize it and drive your sales up a little higher. Integrated licensing for free trials. Again, this is very simple process for you guys. We are recommending support trials where you can. And then finally, the device registration service. So we've got a lot of questions at the booth about when is hardware coming? When are we going to be able to test on real devices? Well, you know what? When hardware does come and you have real devices, they're going to be retail devices and they're going to be locked. So we're offering you a service in the cloud where you can actually tether your device and unlock it so you can actually sideload code and show your grandmom or your mom your application that you're actually working on and get her feedback before you actually finish it. So this is actually a really cool service. If you have an account on the dev portal, as I mentioned, it's very simple. You just tether that device, sign in with your live ID. We'll validate your account and unlock your device for a period of time. Okay, so summary slide. Here's what we talked about today. We introduced you to Marketplace at a little bit deeper level than you've seen before. Todd covered a lot of ground in terms of what we want that retail experience to be for end users, how we want to leverage a lot of the features to help you guys promote your applications. We talked about how you make money, how you get paid. I'm not sure we mentioned it, but we pay with electronic funds transfer in a lot of countries, and we're expanding all the time. And finally, we talked about publishing applications and how we want that to be fast, transparent, and super predictable for you guys. So, not everyone in this room raised their hand when I asked about who got the tools. So everyone who didn't raise their hand, go get the tools. They're awesome. Especially, the fact that we're giving Blend as well as the phone developer tools away for free is just amazing. So please go download those tools at developer.windowsphone.com. Second, connect with the community. All of you guys in this room, there's a forum out there. There's been a ton of chatter since we launched it on Monday. There's a lot of people who are really excited about building apps for 7. Get out there and connect with them and see what other people are doing and help to grow each other's skills. Third, start building your applications. And later on, when you're ready, register at the site and start publishing your applications and earning money. So I know you're going to ask, well, what do I get if I register? Well, if you start to register early, we're going to be able to communicate with you and tell you a lot more about the things as they happen. So if you're interested in registering, it's available now. You can go do that. But if you're not ready to do that, that's okay too. It's more important that you get those tools and start building your applications. And so again, developer.windowsphone.com. I know most of you have been there, but for those of you who haven't, check it out. And if you want to get the latest from Charlie and the team, follow us on Twitter. There's a lot of activity going on there. And Todd and I may be so bold as to give you all our email addresses, but it just goes to show you that we really want to hear from you. We really want your feedback, and make sure you have a really great experience in the marketplace. So we've left about 20 minutes for questioning, because we anticipate a lot of people have questions. So please step up to the microphones.
Okay, 3 questions. Does it cost to register?
Okay, so I'll take that. So yes, it does cost to register. Well, students are free as part of the DreamSpark program. But if you go register as a developer today, it's $99 a year.
Is that covered as part of the BizSpark program as well?
We're currently not integrated with the BizSpark program, so you'd have to register outside of that today.
Okay. When will the marketplace start accepting Windows Phone 7 apps?
So that's a great question. We're going to start accepting your submissions later this summer.
Okay. And last question is, if I already have an app in the marketplace and I decide I want it to go on sale for 3 days only or for the next 100 downloads, do I have control over doing that?
So good question. Do you have control over essentially discounting it based on a number of purchases or over time? So at the launch, we don't have a discount capability. However, you're able to go into the developer portal that John talked about at any time and change your pricing, and then you can change it back. Also, one of the things that John touched on, there's going to be an option, a checkbox, which says, publish my application worldwide. So your application's available to users around the world that have Windows phones and are using Windows Phone Marketplace to make it easy to discover.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of, sorry, I lost my mic. I want to build on that just a little bit further and mention that you really have a lot of flexibility in being able to go in and sell those applications in countries where you may not actually have localization support. So for folks that are just writing apps in English, there's nothing precluding you from selling them in Europe. So for users who want to buy in Euro, or in the UK, users who want to buy in pounds, etc. So a lot of control there.
This question in front.
Two-faceted question. How do you, on one hand, how will you control the development devices and enable development devices, including corporate devices for corporate accounts? And the other side of basically the same question, how would you enable beta programs for applications?
So I can try to tackle.
How about I take the first one?
Sure.
So I touched on earlier that we realize there's a broad spectrum of scenarios that we need to support for Marketplace. So clearly, enabling consumers and people that have Windows phones to be able to purchase applications is something that we're supporting. We're going to come back with more information over this spring on how we're going to support the enterprise scenarios and other specific distribution scenarios. And I think John can answer the question about the second part of the question.
Yeah, so the second part of the question was about beta scenarios. So we don't have a ton of information in detail to share at this point, but suffice to say that we are looking at offering a program to allow you to beta test your applications with a set of invitees to the application. So you would upload the app, invite your friends, get feedback on the app, and be able to then go publish it.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, and again, that's we'll provide more information later this spring on that as well. So.
Okay, great. And a quick second question: are you going to open APIs to the marketplace on the server side?
So the question was, can we open APIs to the marketplace? Presumably, so you can wire up build systems and things like that to publish directly. That is a long-term goal for us. There's no plans right now to enable that at GA. So
thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Question in back.
So considering the update process, like if I have version 2 of a product and I don't want this to be free, but I want people to pay for it, do I have to have a separate product, or is there something supported for that, or do I just need to change my paradigm?
So good question. If you have an update and you want it to be a paid for update, how do you handle that scenario? So the update process that we make available is to push free updates to consumers or to people with Windows phones. And so if you have an update sort of that's kind of a breakthrough change in your product and you want to charge for it, you need to submit that as a separate application into the marketplace. Okay. Question down here in front?
It is also possible to expire the old version as well. So even though you would have two versions side by side, you could choose to expire another one, the older one.
Do you support specifics for corporations that have corporate legal policies or things like that, where they just can't sign up on a portal? And if you already have an XBLA contract with you, where you're publishing XBLA, does that carry over to the phone marketplace?
Okay, so that was a tricky two-part question. So first part is, what about enterprises that want to publish applications? How do they register? So they need to go through the same registration process as all developers. The agreement's available online, and that's the agreement for distributing software through the marketplace. Now, the second part of the question was, what if we're already developing games, premium Xbox Live enabled games? How does that process work? Again, you need to register as a developer through the developer portal, and you would probably work with the Xbox team as well. So you would probably have two agreements. So question in back?
Yes. Are you going to support carrier preloads? Applications being preloaded?
Okay, so the question is, are we going to support carrier preloads? So I don't want to go too deep into this answer because I don't think it's generally applicable for the audience, but the short answer is yes, we're going to support some carrier preloads. And if you want to discuss that in more depth, why don't we just talk about it offline afterwards?
Okay.
Okay.
Also, are you going to support any kind of subscription model?
Okay, great. Good question. So on a slide where I talked about the business models we're going to support at launch, subscriptions was not on the list. So we're going to come back in May and we're going to talk about additional business models that we're going to help support.
Thank you.
Two questions. The first is pre-publication test tools, like what we use now, Hopper, App Verifier. I presume there'll be equivalents for WinMove 7. And the second question is in-game purchases for game assets or per play. Will you support that?
I'm happy to take the first one.
Yep.
Okay, so the question was about tooling, pre-certification tooling. It's definitely a goal for us. We have nothing to announce at this point about that, what that would look like, but obviously we understand how important that is for you and important for us because we want to make sure that you guys have a predictable experience. So.
And the second?
Okay, so the second question was, will we support in-application commerce at launch? And so again, I'm going to go back to my slide where I talked about the business models that we support. We support the four that I discussed. In-application commerce wasn't on the list. We're going to come back with guidance on this later in May. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many applications you're targeting at launch in the marketplace?
Good question. So do we have any idea or an estimate for the number of applications that we expect to be in marketplace at launch? And I think we have not published a number publicly. Internally, we may have numbers that we think. Just the feedback from all of you at MIX with all the awesome tools that we're making available for free for developing on the phone. We're expecting great things, but we're not going to publish a specific number.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
About how many people are in this room? I'd say we want at least that many, right? Everyone in this room is going to write an app and publish it, right? Come on, seriously.
Question in front.
Just a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
One is there any API for when you want to upsell your product from trial to full? Is there any API to take you to the product page in the marketplace, or I know you said you can't do it from within the app. But
Great question. Actually, the question is there an API available to help you take you to the product page? And I believe the answer is yes.
Right. So there's two things. So when you have a trial, when the trial expires, depending on how you configured it, you're taken to the application's detail page and presented with the opportunity to purchase the application.
And my other question is the developer license. I think it's 5 submissions or something like that? Yeah, so for the current Windows Phone 6.5 marketplace, there's 5 submissions as part of the $99 a year registration fee. We're going to update the program policies in May. And just generally speaking, you know, we're about reducing friction for developers that want to make money in marketplace. And so you'll see an update to that program in May. Now, are those accepted submissions or submissions that might have been rejected?
So today, for the program on 6.5, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, it's accepted submissions, I believe.
It's submissions in general. So to the extent the submission fails, it would be an additional submission to get up to the passing.
But again, that's for the 6.5 marketplace. It's not for Windows Phone marketplace that we were talking about today.
Thank you.
All right. Question in back.
Hi there. Yeah, you've mentioned enterprise support a couple of times. My understanding was that Windows Phone 7 series was almost totally consumer focused. So I'm wondering about scenarios whereby you want to release an app for a predetermined number of users with one of your clients, offering a different pricing model for that. I understand you might not be able to confirm the details around what that might be, but will there be different distribution models and the ability to deploy for enterprises on launch?
So I'm glad you asked the question. So the Windows Phone 7 series, in a lot of sessions you may have heard us talk about it as a consumer phone. It's really a phone for people like you and me, people that have busy lives, people that have jobs, people that work in enterprises, people that use Exchange. There's an Office hub that's a key part of the Windows Phone. So clearly it's more than just a consumer phone. It's a phone for people that have complicated lives. And it's about helping to simplify those lives. Now, as far as the enterprise distribution scenarios, there's a number of different scenarios for how enterprises want to distribute software. And that's we're going to come back with additional information later this spring on how we're going to support those scenarios and what the time frame for that is. Okay, question in front?
Cool, a microphone that is finally compatible with my height. So you said that there's a related apps option, and this is going to show off the most popular items in other categories and so forth?
Well, so, okay.
So if you're, and before you answer that, so I mean, as a developer, this would obviously bother me because if I'm not one of the #1 apps, the more popular apps are going to be displayed in my product listing, which actually could take revenue away from me. Like, you know, okay, I saw this, but I'm going to go look at this app. I want that one instead now. Now I've lost a sale through a marketing effort that, you know, yeah, the user's #1, but I want them stuck on my advertising billboard, not my competitors' billboards.
Okay, so the question is about the related app feature on the product detail page. That's the feature where we show 4 other popular applications in the same category as the application you're viewing. If you've gotten that far down the application detail page and you've decided not to try or not to buy the application, you may be deciding that it's not the right application for you. The intent is to increase discoverability of all of your applications and games to consumers and people with Windows phones. It's not intended to steer people away from a particular product.
Right. One other thing, can people pin us to, I mean, I saw Contoso was on there. I don't know what that is. Everybody keeps asking me.
So let me talk about that. So Contoso is a placeholder for a mobile operator brand. So it's a highly visible and discoverable place for mobile operators to showcase the applications and services that are most important to their consumers.
So then could you pin, or can they pin your, say, you know, your company? So, for example, if we write a bunch of games that you like, can you pin us so that we're kind of one of your favorite distributors of apps, just, you know, kind of like Square Enix or whatever, or EA? I want to see all the EA games, and I always want to see those.
Question is, how do you increase discoverability of your applications to consumers? So a consumer can take any application, just like a person, and pin it to the start screen, so it's highly discoverable. And so using that, plus the live tiles, the live tile can communicate information about new products and services from your company to consumers, and that's the best way to approach that scenario.
Okay, so then you can't pin
So
the marketplace.
the application, the content types that are available through Marketplace, applications, games, premium Xbox Live games, music, applications from your mobile operator or from the OEM that manufactured the device, those are the content types that are available and described on the Marketplace hub. A consumer needs to take your application once they've acquired it and elect to pin it to the start screen.
Okay, and last question.
Okay.
When an application update is installed, is the application's data retained?
All right, John?
I believe the answer is yes. I have to double check on that. If you wouldn't mind, we can chat offline and we'll double check that.
Thanks.
All right, question in back?
What are the options for us in those unlucky countries who cannot get paid?
Okay. So the question is, I wasn't in one of those countries on the map of the world that was green, and what are the options for us, for people in those countries? As I indicated, we're constantly working on adding more countries to that map because we think that we want to reward you for innovating on the Windows Phone platform, and we want to make even more great content available for people with Windows phones. If you want to catch up after the session, we can talk about which country you're in. And
can we register and give away our software for free?
So
or accumulate funds on
the question is, can I register for free and not worry about getting paid? And the answer is, right now we have sort of a one-to-one pairing between markets where we pay people and markets where people can register from. But again, if you want to catch up after the session, we can talk about it more. Thanks for the question. Down in front.
What sort of data will be made available to developers? Let's say benchmarks in the marketplace on, let's say I want to know what related apps, what percentage are converting from trial to full purchases, or a ranking maybe in my category. Where is my sales rank? So we have some sort of idea of what the target market size is and how other developers are doing converting.
Well, I'll answer the question first by saying that the data that we're going to provide you at launch is going to be about how your applications are performing. I'll let you tackle the one of whether or not we're going to.
Right. So, at launch, we're not going to support providing information about the category that your game or application is in as an aggregate, so you could understand how you're performing against your peers. That's interesting bit of feedback, and that's something that we'll look at for future releases. Okay, question in back.
Hi. What will be the model for users with several devices? Do they have to purchase the application on each device? Or? Okay,
so great question. So what is the model for a consumer with several devices or a consumer that purchases a device, buys a bunch of applications, and then unfortunately loses their device? So the applications are associated with a consumer's Windows Live ID. And so if I go sailing and drop my phone in the ocean, I get another phone, I'm able to sign in and get my applications back. It also works if you're one of the few people that has multiple Windows Phone 7 series devices. The same applications are available to you on up to 5 phones.
Okay, so there is a limit of 5 devices?
There's a limit of 5 devices, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Question in front.
Yeah, so just 2 questions. First question is that you mentioned that the possibility to unlock devices for development purpose. Is it possible for those devices to feature over-the-air deployment?
So the question is, can I do OTA deployment to the device when it's unlocked? The answer is no. So you'll be able to load applications onto the device through the tethered experience, but still the device will only get OTA code from Marketplace.
Okay.
So.
And second question, is it possible to relock one previously unlocked devices?
Great question. So what you can do, and I apologize for not mentioning this, you'll be able to go to the developer portal and actually physically remove the device from the list of unlocked devices.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Question in back.
Yeah, since most of this is Silverlight and Zaps, is there anything in place for protection against, say, someone figures out how to get my Zap out of the phone, decompile it, steal my code, and rebrand it and put it up on the marketplace?
Great question. So obviously, like protecting that application is super important. A couple things to mention. The apps are transmitted from you to us over SSL, from us to the device over SSL. When they're on the device and after they're installed, the app is removed. So there's no physical presence of the Zap left on the device. Additionally, there's no access to the file system on the device. So you shouldn't be able to retrieve a Zap from that perspective. Again, we have the licensing as well in place, so the app is itself protected from others being able to compromise use of the application. So a fairly tight story there.
Thanks.
Great. Question in front.
Is it possible to keep different prices for different countries, I mean, for different marketplaces?
Okay.
So that's a great question.
Because you say that it's possible to sign just one sub.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
For different markets. But if I want to play with prices on different countries, can I do this?
That's something that we're still kind of working through the details of. It's definitely a great feature. It's actually kind of what is available today. And so definitely good to hear that it's important. So the high order bit for us is to make sure that you can sell those applications into other countries. We're still, we don't have the full details to share about exactly what how you'll be able to do that.
And the second question is a little bit abstract. What is your idea about the prices? What kind of prices for apps we should set? Like $1, $5, or $20 is okay as well.
So do we provide guidance on pricing? Is that the question?
I think what he's getting at is there a recommendation for how to maximize sales through pricing?
Recommendation, or probably even just a vision? Because for the moment for Windows Mobile, it's $15 absolutely okay.
Yeah.
But another market shows that $1 is okay. But what do you think about this?
So our goals for Marketplace are several-fold. And I think I described, we want to get your great products and services into the hands of people with Windows phones, and we want to help you make money. John talked about how we establish a quality bar through testing. We think that's important because we think that drives confidence for consumers, and confidence for consumers translates into increased purchases, and we believe higher prices for you over the long term, making it a more sustainable market over the long term for you to be rewarded for the innovation that you drive. And so we don't give developers specific guidance on what they should price. You're able to change your pricing and see how the market reacts and to those price changes. And we talked about the worldwide distribution option. That makes it simple for your app to be available worldwide. We'll come back probably in May with details on how pricing is going to work for that worldwide distribution option, what options are available to you. And as John mentioned, you can see things like if people in France are buying my application, even though it's in English, maybe I should look into some French localization to drive up sales there.
Just one additional point I want to hit on that you actually talked about earlier was that prices that are optimized for mobile operator billing generally generate higher sell-through. So we want to provide the guidance of if the price is optimized for mobile operator billing, that should be available in the developer portal and obvious to you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Question in back.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you will consider applications that are kind of vertical market, line of business applications, that pretty narrow audience where the application itself requires a companion kind of desktop application. What I'm looking at is kind of using the device as a mobile data collection device, say, for example, for a line of business application. So it's a vertical market application.
Sure. So that's a great question. It's kind of it's a question about a B2B or an enterprise type application, and would we allow an application like that to be ingested in the marketplace and made available? And I've actually had conversations with particular companies that they have applications like that, or an application that allows employees to keep track of time, or or other things that they want to put into the marketplace, and they've asked, is that okay? You know, it's going to be a free application that people could download, which then is it's going to prompt a user to authenticate against an enterprise backend. And an application like that would be fine to submit into the marketplace.
Great.
So,
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard anything said about application naming collisions and trademarks and what the policies are around that.
Okay. So I would say, you know, we have content policy and application policy guidelines that are already published online. We're going to rev those in May. One of the items in there is that in there, and actually in the application provider agreement, is that you acknowledge you have the right to the trademark you're using. And so if you submit an application using a trademark that isn't yours, and somebody that actually owns that comes along and says that that actually is mine, then we would remove the application. So, you know, we don't, yeah, does that answer your question?
Well, what happens if it's a generic name, Mike's app, you know, by my company?
Let me double click on that a little bit to make sure
are
you worried about also device or app collisions on the device itself? Or just more like
the name of the app,
Mike's Twitter app versus some other Mike's Twitter app?
Right.
Right. So basically, we consider uniqueness at the level of the developer. So in other words, Mike couldn't create 2 Mike's Twitter apps. That would be considered an update to the first one. But there could be, every Mike in the world could create a Twitter app and call it Mike's Twitter app.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if somebody did a search, as we showed earlier, they would see the 2 Mike's Twitter apps. So,
okay. Thank you.
Question in back.
Hi. Yeah, I'm concerned about censorship. Can you talk about content and what would not be acceptable?
You know, okay, so the question is what content's not acceptable? Again, you know, transparency is one of our key goals. And so rather than, you know, fielding the question, I would say you should go online to the developer portal and you can pull up the content policies and you can review them there. Question in front.
On the 5 devices, is that 5 phone devices, or is my Live ID tied to, say, my Zune and my other Zune and my phone and my Xbox Live?
So great question. On the licensing of an application to a Windows Live ID for use on 5 devices. The 5 devices are Windows phones. So it doesn't include things like Zune HD or an Xbox. They're Windows phones.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, good question. Question in back.
Do you anticipate having a web service to allow an application to search the marketplace? Say I wanted to write a custom marketplace searching tool that was customizable by a customer who was just interested, be able to, in effect, tailor their own queries against the marketplace to find things.
Yeah. Sure.
That's a great question. We don't have any plans to implement something like that at launch, but it's definitely a great piece of feedback, and would love to hear, you know, all those types of feedback from you guys. So.
Okay. Question in front.
Great presentation. Quick question. It sounds like there won't be developer hardware available for purchase. If that's the case, I know as a small shop, what we really hate to do is to have, you know, 20. You go to AT&T and you're like, "Can I get 20 phones?" And they're like, "That's fine. You know, here's the cost, and here's your monthly bill that you're now paying for all those devices." I mean, we develop, you know, iPhone. You've got the, you know, the iPod Touch. For Google, you've got the Nexus One. Are you guys at the very least going to work with carriers to sort of, so we don't have the experience when you go in of them looking at us funny when we want to get?
So I think the question is, I want to develop for Windows Phone, and I need to get hardware for my developers, and I don't want to sign them all up for a subscription with a mobile operator. How do I get devices?
Exactly.
Okay, exactly. So depending on the mobile operator, some of them will sell you the device without a data plan. You can also purchase devices through, unlock devices through distributors online. And so I think, you know, we'll provide additional guidance to developers about how to get devices and when. As John indicated, a great way to be sort of early in getting that information is to go register now. And then we're going to proactively communicate all that type of information out to you. So I'd encourage you to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Over, I want to be sensitive. Okay.
Okay. I guess we got 2 more questions, so take one in back.
Just a general question about parental controls. Will you have any app ratings and ability to lock down certain apps?
Okay, great question about parental controls. So at launch, we do not have parental controls on the device. Now, you may have noticed the game rating that we display. So in the United States, in North America, we'll display the ESRB rating, where the developer's actually gone and gotten that for the game. In Europe, we'll support things like PEGI and USK and other rating systems around the world to help consumers understand the level of content in the application. Now, regarding the content policies, we've essentially structured the market so it's a pretty clean market. You know, it's sort of a PG-13 level market. There are not going to be mature rated titles in there. We're looking at parental controls for future releases, but we don't have anything to share at this time. But good question. I think this is our last question.
So if it's tied to my Live ID, is there any way for me to, somebody bought it on the Xbox Live and then it's unlocked for them on the mobile marketplace?
So this is a good question. I'm really glad you brought it up. So the question is essentially, are we doing buy once, play anywhere for applications either purchased on the Xbox or on the Windows Phone? And so the answer is, to start with, applications purchased on the Windows Phone are for the Windows Phone. So it's not a buy once, play anywhere model to start with. That's a great scenario that we want to get to, but that's not where we're going to have a launch.
Okay, great,
okay,
thank you.
Thanks. And we'll take one more and squeeze in here.
Thank you very much. So Apple has partitioned the sales of their apps geographically, where you have to, if you sell within a region, you have to meet a minimum threshold to get paid. You know, it kicks in. So you're selling, but you're not really collecting the money until you meet that threshold. My question is, do you have a similar scheme, or can you improve on that?
All right. Great question. So this is the last question, last answer. So we let you decide to sell your application worldwide. And we roll together all the revenue that you've generated. And when you hit the payout threshold that we communicate to you, which is currently $200, as soon as you go over that, we pay you. And so we don't sort of say you have to sell $200 in France before we'll pay you with any of that money, and $200 in Ireland. We just, as soon as you get to $200, we pay you. All right.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for all the great questions, everybody.